Welcome to the Healthy Hustling Podcast. I have here some good friends of mine. We've got Joshua LeJarett and we've got Steve Leppard. So Steve is a physical therapist, and Josh, let's see, you were the captain of Team Josh. You're a Boston Marathon qualifier and video game extraordinaire. So,
and vegetarian.
No, I'm not a vegetarian. I'm the opposite of a vegetarian.
So, and apparently not a vegetarian, just pure carnivore. Yes. So he'll eat you alive in a race, as the Grand Rapids Marathon found out. And Steve, as I'd mentioned, he's a physical therapist and center manager at NovaCare Rehabilitation. He is the founder of the Solstice Foundation and Solstice Scholarship. He's an endurance athlete and also Boston Marathon qualifier with Josh here. And he's also the Ausable River Canoe Marathon finisher. So big into endurance athletes and competitions and everything that involves that. So yeah, thanks for joining me, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Awesome. No problem. So let's get started here with talking about, how did you both meet? Let's start from there. Let's start from square one.
Probably the fall of 2002.
Yes, 2000.
I was a physical therapist here in Kalamazoo, and Josh was a patient, and he'd come to our clinic for outpatient orthopedic PT. We saw him some in the pool and some in the gym.
Awesome. Yeah. And then I remember you, Josh, because I've worked with you a little bit. I was a student actually under Steve back in 2014. It doesn't seem that long ago, but 6 years ago now. And I had the pleasure of working with both of you, and definitely something that, I'll never forget. So as we mentioned, you guys qualified for the Boston Marathon, running with my team Triumph. Let's talk about the training, and what was the most difficult part of training for the Grand Rapids Marathon to qualify for Boston?
Well, my part was mainly just trying to keep people motivated and saying, like, we can do it, and just being a big part of actually, like, making sure that I'm sitting there cheering people on and all this other stuff. So
you're our captain, man.
Yes.
Yeah. So Josh, you were in charge of running, making sure the ship sailed smoothly, right?
Yes,
lean right.
Yes, lean right.
Yeah, lean right. Awesome. What about you, Steve? I know you had some pretty interesting training runs. I think people looked at you like you're crazy, right? Running around the city here.
We're fortunate because friend Brandon Girardi and I have been doing stuff with Josh since about 2002. Brandon is a physical therapist in Grand Rapids. And we do lots of ultra marathon canoe racing. And so we're already in pretty decent shape because we canoe a lot. And running and pushing our man Josh in a wheelchair involves lots of upper extremity, lower extremity stuff. So we're already fairly decently trained through canoeing. Brandon and I would run in the fall, and we had a sack of Morton salt in my baby's stroller, and we ran from D Avenue to Bell's Brewery downtown and back, which is 16 miles. So that was a good training run, and we did the same thing in Grand Rapids at Millennium Park. We ran with a sack of Morton salt for 17 miles. So we figured if we can do that, we're set.
Yeah, awesome. And so I think didn't you have a funny story about the sack of Morton salt? Didn't you lose it in the stroller the one time and just made fun of it? Or
yeah.
Well, that'll be for the.
It wasn't seatbelted in.
Yeah, you'll have to, I guess, pay for that story if you guys want to hear that story. So that'll be in the additional footage. But yeah, so I know Brandon's been a big part of all these races, and definitely a big shout out to him. Also an awesome individual. It just so happened, kind of touching on Brandon Girardi, he was also a clinical instructor of mine, and I didn't put the two together. So I'd been under Brandon for my first ever clinical rotation, and he told me about this canoe racing that he did, and I thought, oh, that's cool. I've never heard of anyone doing canoe racing. And then I get to your clinical, and you're like, yeah, I do canoe racing. I'm like, man, I have this other clinical instructor, my first one, that did canoe racing, and turns out you guys were teammates. So really funny. But yeah, so now going into the marathon, when you're doing the Grand Rapids Marathon, so you ran with my team Triumph.
Huge shout out to Terrence Rubin, who's a physical therapist in Grand Rapids at Mary Free Bed. Super good guy, very genuine, and he's done a ton to develop my team Triumph to allow for race accessibility for folks of different abilities. So Josh, as an assisted athlete, was able to run with red shirts with my team Triumph because of Terrence, and Terrence has race chariots that folks use. So there's probably 15 or 20 different captains that were able to race with teams pushing them. And so Terrence is a huge part of that process for Josh's success.
Awesome. And who else, let's kind of give some credit. Who else was on your guys' team? Who else was a part of your team specifically?
Team over the couple of years that we've been doing, Kaylee
Bartow here at this clinic, physical therapist.
Let's see who else. Adam
Fujita, a friend of ours who's a PT in Grand Rapids. Lots of physical therapists here. John Ribel, who's a friend of ours. Lisa Viverman, a friend of ours. And Becky Prohaska, who's also a pretty sweet runner. So that's kind of the group of us that have been lucky enough to be on Josh's team.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then obviously Brandon too. So, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So
we already talked about him.
So let's talk about the race a little bit. What was it like at the start? Were you nervous at all, or?
The very first race that we did, it was very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
To be just in that big giant crowd that we were in, just going out and doing it. After the first few times, we kind of got used to it. But,
how many races have you done?
I have done. Let me see. I've done like 4.
What have they been?
We've done the half marathon, the Grand Rapids Metro half twice. Then we've done the Riverbank Run, and then we did the Metro full marathon
and
last year.
Huge shout out to Don Kern, who's the director of the Metro Health Grand Rapids Marathon and Half Marathon. That's a very well put on event. Great race, great course, great swaggy t-shirts, good finish line. So Don runs just a beautiful race in Grand Rapids, and it was fun to be able to have Josh qualify for Boston at Don's race.
Yeah, awesome. And so how was the weather?
The first time it wasn't that great. It was raining cats and dogs the very first one.
Yeah, Josh's very first race, we were all excited. It's his first half marathon. You want perfect weather for your friend, and it was torrentially raining. And we're maybe a mile in, and we're all running and sweating and thinking, I hope Josh is having a good time. He's pumping his fist from inside the chariot. We're doing this again next year.
Yes.
Awesome.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then this year was a little better, right?
Yes.
I was there for the finish, and I remember the weather was it was perfect at the finish.
Yes.
I wasn't there for the beginning, though.
Beginning was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
40 or 50 and sunny.
Yeah.
Nice.
Can't beat that for running, for sure. So what was I think we talked about, what was the most difficult part of the race? Any difficulties at all, or was it just completely smooth sailing?
I would say there's a few difficulties. It's just more about endurance mainly.
Yeah, that's a big part of racing, for sure.
Yes, it is.
Well, it was different too, because we've done these before, and we would rotate who would push Josh in the half or in the riverbank.
Yeah.
But to qualify for Boston, they'll only allow one person to push the entire time. So like on the Butterworth Hill, you turn that corner at the bottom and go up the hill to the left.
Yeah.
And so you really had to get a running start and get as much oomph as you could, and you kind of can make it 80% of the way, and then you kind of jog at the end.
Yeah.
And so kind of pacing out hills was a big challenge with one pusher.
Yeah. And you pushed the whole way, correct, Steve?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like you said, in order to – I know that was the goal going into this race was, hey, we're going to qualify for Boston. We're going to make this happen. So while there's a team of runners, only one person could push. And if more than one person pushed the captain, then you don't qualify, even though if you hit the qualifying time. Which
and you have to be able to run a 6-hour marathon for Boston. And Josh raced a 4-hour, 19-minute marathon. So he beat cutoff for Boston by 1 hour and 41 minutes.
Absolutely crushed the qualifying time. Yeah. And that's awesome. Congrats again. So it was, I was there, fortunate enough to be there for the finish and cheer you on at the finish. And I tell you what, that was really awesome to see you coming into the finish strong, and all the support that you had and the turnout with everyone at the finish line. That was awesome.
Yes, it's really awesome for me just watching all the people that have come out to support me as I do all these runs. It's just it is a really wonderful sight to see everybody support me.
Yeah, awesome.
And we honestly did the full marathon because we did the half marathon, and Josh says that's not long enough. I want to race further. I want to race longer. I want to spend more time with you guys.
Yeah.
So he kind of was talking trash to the riverbank and wanted to race further. So really, I did this because of him. And the cool thing is, then I not only Morton Salt, but my little 2-year-old Bodie, I was able to race with him and do lots of 9-mile runs, 12-mile runs with him. So it's kind of neat that because of Josh, we ran a marathon. Because of Josh, I had all these long runs with my 2.5-year-old. So it's kind of
win-win for everyone.
Thank you for that, really.
So we mentioned now you qualified for Boston, and we're not racing Boston 2020, but the goal is to race Boston 2021. So coming up in almost a year away. And one of the things, what do we need to do? Because you qualified, but how do we get to Boston? What's the next step?
So from our understanding, 10 duo teams are allowed to race Boston each year. And Josh and I are a duo team. And so out of how many ever people apply, 500, 1,000, I'm not exactly sure, folks that are assisted athletes, 10 get to race per year. And there's a few folks that are huge, awesome supporters of Boston Marathon. Team Hoyt is big. Adidas is big. John Hancock's a big organization that really supports the duo team program. And so those organizations then, my understanding, it's either a random draw or it's a pick of folks they know, folks that have had an impression on them. So we hope to make a connection with either John Hancock, Adidas, Team Hoyt, one of these folks that are big supporters of assisted athletes going as duo teams. So hopefully we can have one of those spots. Of course, it helps that he's an hour and 41 minutes ahead of his cutoff.
Yeah.
But we understand there might be lots of applicants. And so we really want to do what we can to kind of get the word out there for our man, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a little bit like a lottery. And I know we've reached out to Adidas in Germany. We've reached out to the Boston Marathon. We've reached out to a lot of individuals. So, one thing that one of the reasons we're doing this podcast and that we're hoping is this is going to reach someone who can give us a connection to get Josh to Boston, because he's put in all the work. He's ran multiple races. We got the qualifying time down. And now, if there's anyone that's deserving to be in Boston, it's our man Josh here. So if anyone's listening that has any connections, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Gazelle Sports in Kalamazoo, just as a running store, is a phenomenal running store. And Joe, the manager, and Chris, the owner, have been good reaching out to Adidas for us. So something might come of that. Or I know Terrence, again, from my team Triumph, is very well connected. He knows some folks from Team Hoyt. So hopefully one of those people, Terrence is a good guy, Gazelles are great people. Hopefully one of them can kind of work on that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And also kind of a shout out to people that are helping us out a little bit. Jesse Anderson over at Red Fox Footwear in Fenton, Michigan. That's who I'd reached out to as well. And he put us into connection with some people for just trying to win that lotto and get to Boston. So yeah. I know there's definitely got to be someone out there that we can connect with. So, do we know how many applicants roughly that have qualified or people that are applying? No?
I truly don't know how many folks would apply as duo teams. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, this one neat theme that keeps coming up here is kind of community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not it's Terrence and Gazelle and Don with Marathon, or Brandon, my buddy, who's an Advent physical therapist, or Fuge, who's a physical therapist. There's a big community in West Michigan of healthcare folks that are doing positive things. Eric at Fuel Physical Therapy. So lots of folks are doing positive stuff. And I think a lot of that kind of goes back to Grand Valley State. Dan Vaughn is a professor there who's the director of the program. Barb Hugenboom is a professor there. Karen Osgood is a professor there. Just really, really solid people who left an impression on me 20 years ago. Dan, as a program director, has been a big supporter as we're starting a scholarship at Grand Valley. Barb Hugenboom, professor, we're running down the finish line. We're 200 yards from the finish line. Barb is chiming into his phone saying, "Congratulations, Josh." So I think it really says a lot about a program when you graduate 20 years ago and your professors from 20 years ago are chiming in during Josh's race.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
And definitely talking about community, to just highlight on the clinic and everything that you've built here in Kalamazoo that honestly I've always looked up to since I was a student, and as I've really developed, I've really wanted to grow and kind of follow in your footsteps when it comes to that. I mean, if you look in the background here, if you're watching the video, we've got the Boston for Josh. We've got that banner. That was already up there. I mean, that was not placed up here just for this video. That was already up there. We got a picture of Josh above and Brandon and Fuge pushing him. And then we've got another picture of Josh over on the side. And then we've got your success wall with all these signatures. And just everywhere you look in this clinic, it's just pictures of success and community and really just being a part and helping to, as you like to say, lift others up and just be a positive force, because we can't have enough positive people really in this community. And that's, what's so great about Josh is through the whole time treating him, as far as the amount of positivity that he's had and just what he brings, each and every day, every time he comes for his appointment, he's always just a good guy to work with and fun to work with. Yeah.
Pretty swell.
Yeah, pretty swell. And just an absolute carnivore, just an absolute meat eater.
Eating up miles.
Yeah, veggies are safe, but any meat is in trouble. So, and so what's your motivation as you push for Boston? What motivates you as we continue on?
What motivates me is the one of the facts is I don't believe in I don't one of the things that I don't. Let me say it right. One of the things that I don't believe in is boundaries for myself. When I was growing up, kept on being told that I couldn't be a rocket scientist or I couldn't be as smart as other people just because I have cerebral palsy, and I just flat out did not believe it. And I just keep on trying to break boundaries. I already have my associates in video game design, and I'm working on towards getting my bachelor's, and I've been just breaking boundaries ever since I was young and everything.
And the neat thing is you've been an inspiration to us. As we're canoeing, we've done these 7 Salvo River Canoe Marathons, 120 miles long. You're sitting, your butt's getting sore, you're tired, and then you think, oh, Josh sits every day. I probably shouldn't whimper about a sore bottom, right? And so it's been kind of neat that you're relatively famous in the canoe racing world too, that the marathon has a program book every year, and you're in the program book. Program Paddling for Josh is introduced every year at the marathon. And so a lot of people would know your name, know your story, and kind of know that Brandon and I are proud to rep you on the canoe all the time. And even when we're doing running, right? I wouldn't have run a full marathon if it wasn't for you. So it's kind of neat. The inspiration is definitely going to us. We're the lucky ones.
Yeah. And I think you wrote something here to say. Did we want to hit on that?
So this is a letter to the Boston Athletic Association, BAA. As you're selecting people for the next duo teams, Josh would like to give you a little background on himself. Some of this is a review, but some of this will just be kind of his pitch for Boston, why he deserves to go this year.
So go ahead, Josh. It's all you.
Steven and his friend Brandon had done 7 canoe.
Make sure you speak up just so we get it on the microphone.
Josh was writing that we'd done 7 of these canoe marathons to pay for college. Now we wanted to do a marathon together.
Yep.
We've raced 2 half marathons, 25K, and just raced Grand Rapids with one person pushing. Josh is sending in his application to race the Boston Marathon. Boston is the most famous marathon, and he wants to show there's no limits, no boundaries, except for the boundaries you put on oneself. He says, we've seen Team Hoyt race, and I would be lucky to race Boston. I've been in this journey with Steven and Brandon since 2002. Please consider giving us the opportunity to race the Boston Marathon. Sincerely, the Josh.
Yes, Josh.
The Josh. Joshua LeJarett. And what's that we got there?
Oh, Jesus.
Awesome.
You qualified, dude.
Yes.
Some swag, some Boston Marathon qualifier swag.
Yeah.
Congrats.
You're pretty humble in all your greatness.
Yes, I am very humble.
So Josh, now that the Grand Rapids Marathon, that's behind you now. Other than training for Boston, when that comes up, because we know that's going to come up, what other races do you have coming up?
Let me see. We're planning. We are definitely planning on doing the Metro Health. We're still in conversations about whether we want to do the full or the half. I'm totally for the full, but
this fall again.
Yeah,
this fall,
and then do Riverbank again this spring.
And then Riverbank again.
And today we're signing up for the Wheel Run at Grand Valley, which is a PT program.
Awesome.
5K.
Yeah.
So I know 5K is a little short for you because you're such an ultra endurance superstar now.
Right. Why have half the fun when you can have just full the fun, you know?
Yes, exactly.
Full fun. So thanks again for coming on, and I like to finish with just a little bonus question here at the end. And so with this being the Healthy Hustling podcast, what does healthy hustling mean to you?
For me, it means sort of being motivated to do things, making sure that there are no boundaries, and that you break through, that you can basically do anything that you put your mind to, and as long as you have that single goal in mind, that goal can be yours, and you're the only one that's stopping you from not doing that.
I like it.
And there's just an enormous amount of people behind Josh. I mean, there's 3 of us sitting here, but the credit goes far beyond this 3 people. We've talked about other folks before, but huge credit goes to my wife, Ryan Leppard, for the times that we go out canoeing, that we go out running. Brandon's wife, Emily LeJarett, is a fantastic supporter as well. My friend Brian Braza has sponsored us in all the canoe marathons. Another Brian Kurtanis has fed us in a lot of canoe marathons. Adam Bagenkoff at Kentwood PT is a great supporter. So there's many, many, many people that have gotten us to this point. It's clearly not just 1 or 2 people, but it really takes a village of positive people.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks again for coming on. And again, if anyone out there, if you see this, if you could simply, even if you don't know, have any connections personally, if you could simply share this and share Josh's story, so that way we can get him to Boston, get him in front of the right people, so that way he can get that sponsorship with Team Hoyt, Adidas, whoever it may be. Let's get him to Boston in 2021 and watch him crush that and just tear down some more boundaries, because that's what this is all about. That's what life's all about. So thanks again, Josh, for doing this and being just an inspiration to everyone that you've come in contact with, really.
Thank you for coming to Kalamazoo to talk to us.
Not a problem.